Women are the kind of people that people come out of. It doesn't take any talent to simply reproduce biologically. Sodomy was a felony in all 50 states. That America of that day was not a totalitarian hellhole.
So you would like America to go back to that?
Yep. And there were also people who owned slaves who were decent human beings and didn't mistreat them.
But we've seen this happen over and over again. This is the Defense Secretary, a womanizing alcoholic moron who couldn't run a veterans nonprofits. But again, as we said in our press release yesterday, the perfect storm of misogyny, racism, homophobia. It's the trifecta. And as Hegseth said when he pushed Doug Wilson's CNN interview out, all of Christ for all of life. So people that watch the Thom Hartmann program, as I've said, at some point, your children or grandchildren or somebody's going to ask you, what did you do to resist against this extremist version of Christianity and this horrible supremacy, unconstitutional oppression and tyranny? What did you do?
In a CNN interview last week, Christian nationalist pastor Douglas Wilson said that women should not be allowed to vote. They should not have leadership roles in the military. This guy has 150 churches, right? And he says that, there was, slavery wasn't all that bad. There was mutual affection between the slaves and their masters. And he wants to make being gay illegal. And Pete Hegseth used to attend this guy's church, maybe still does, I don't know, and has been promoting him. It's just wild. And into this maelstrom steps Mikey Weinstein, and the founder and president of the Military Religious Freedom Foundation. If this stuff outrages you, you might want to go to militaryreligiousfreedom.org, which, by the way, is also their Blue Sky handle, militaryreligiousfreedom.org, and sign up. Become part of the group and help them out, because they're doing God's work here, which I guess is kind of a pun or whatever, but trying to preserve religious freedom here in the military. Mikey Weinstein, welcome back to the program. It's been a while since you've been on. I'm so glad to have you with us.
We were the first organization in the early 2000s to warn about what has become Christian nationalism. We saw it coming. We warned about it. Whenever you look at human history, remember, Homo sapiens, our species, we're a very new species on this planet. Maybe 150, 200,000 years. And civilization itself is much newer. 3,000 years, maybe 3,500? We can look at patterns. Whenever a militarized version of any sort of religious faith has merged with that part of the state where all the weapons are, and in this case, we're talking about Christian nationalism and the merging with where all of the nuclear weapons are, the drones, the conventional weapons, the laser-guided weapons. You have Pete Hegseth endorsing fully this Doug Wilson maniac, who is all about Christian nationalism, all about the fact that the only problem with slavery in America is that it wasn't biblical enough, because we know how well it worked in the Bible. Ask Pharaoh and Moses. Yes. Women can vote. Women are supposed to submit. But if you look in the past, whenever, militarized, weaponized version of any faith, particularly Christianity, merges with the state. Well, Tom, we don't get little creeks or rivers or ponds. We get oceans and oceans of blood. I'd like to tell you about something that happened to me and the foundation in the early years, because we've been around for over 20 years now. I got a call from the Kyoto News Agency. You may know they're one of the biggest news services in Asia, in the East. They wanted to send one of their correspondents from Tokyo all the way out here to New Mexico, in Albuquerque, where I am. They wanted to do an interview. And I was stunned. And I said, well, of course, please do. And can you explain why? They said, the correspondent will explain why. Correspondent came out here, sat in my living room and said, we're watching what's happening in your country, Mr. Weinstein. And I don't know if Americans realize that, but radicalized Shintoism, it's one of the two major faiths in Japan, Buddhism and Shintoism, is what took control of our military in the late 1920s and early 1930s. We invaded China, and of course, it was World War II. It's not even Christianity, but we've seen this happen over and over again. This is the Defense Secretary, a womanizing alcoholic moron who couldn't run a veterans nonprofits. But again, as we said in our press release yesterday, the perfect storm of misogyny, racism, homophobia. It's the trifecta. And as Hegseth said when he pushed Doug Wilson's CNN interview out, all of Christ for all of life. So people that watch the Thom Hartmann program, as I've said, at some point, your children or grandchildren or somebody's going to ask you, what did you do to resist against this extremist version of Christianity and this horrible supremacy, unconstitutional oppression and tyranny? What did you do? Martin Luther King, right, Tom, mentioned that the arc of the moral universe is long, but it tends to bend towards justice. I don't know how long it's going to take, but people need to do something and not just sit back and say, well, I'm very worried about it. I'm not going to sit here on your show, Tom, and extend my little finger and say, well, Tom, what Secretary Hegseth said appears to be very suboptimal. It destroys the Constitution, Tom.
Yes. Yeah.
Destroys the essence of the country. And you know it.
Yeah, and if you want to do something about it, one of the things you can do is go to militaryreligiousfreedom.org and sign up and participate and help out. We're talking with Mikey Weinstein, the founder and president of the Military Religious Freedom Foundation, MRFF, or militaryreligiousfreedom.org. Mikey, I've been doing the show for 23 years, and my recollection is that fairly early on in the show, maybe early on in the creation of your organization, you were on the program and you told me the story of basically starting this thing because your son was in the Air Force Academy, and he's Jewish, and he was being basically aggressively evangelized through the official chain of command. Am I recalling that correctly? And if so, what's the status of that these days?
Well, Tom, that's very impressive. Both of my sons I'm a graduate of the Air Force Academy. My dad went to the Naval Academy. Both of my sons were proselytized at the Air Force Academy. My youngest one came out and told me during his, right after he finished his first year, that he was being proselytized by his cadet chain of command, his officer chain of command, that told him that he and his family were completely complicit in the execution of Jesus Christ. The Air Force Academy is still ground zero for fundamentalist Christian nationalism. The leadership there are complete sycophants, to Hegseth. I mean, unless you're a straight white Christian male, there's just nothing that is otherwise going to hit the approved solution. So what you're saying, as I said before, Hegseth has removed people from the military academies. We are in touch, obviously. Look, what we do here is fight. We chronicle, we expose, we intervene, and attack. And that's something that, as you mentioned, your viewers can do. If you want to do something, and you got to do something. You can't just sit back and do nothing. This is a dangerous job. We get threats every day. We live with bodyguards, attack-trained German shepherds, infrared cameras. You don't have to carry the weapons that we have to carry, but we will. And the bottom line is, if you go to mrff.org, and I'm going to be shamelessly saying what you said before, Tom, help fund us. Our operational expenses are outstripping our donations.
Sure.
We are in the fight, and you can also, you're watching this program. The Hartmann Program has been around for more than a fifth of a century. It also exposes, it chronicles, but you have to either resist or, you are collaborating. And if you decide to do nothing, Tom, you know that, you are collaborating. So do something.
Yeah, I'm with you. Mikey, was I giving the wrong URL out, or do you just have two?
No, it's militaryreligiousfreedom.org, but it's easier for people to remember, like Mr. Firefighter, MRFF.org.
There you go.
And they go there, they get the tax deduction. We need help because without the support, we don't run on chocolate sauce. We will not be able to be in this fight and to chronicle and to expose and to intervene and to attack. Yeah. We have almost 100,000 clients that are U.S. sailors, soldiers, Marines, airmen, guardians in the Space Force. They're in all 18 national security agencies. They're in the VA, and they're in the U.S. Maritime Service. And they come here because they know that we're going to protect their identity, and we're going to never charge them anything. But we are in a war. I'm speaking to you with the gun smoke in my face. So please, anyone who's out there, freaking do something. We are fighting MFers that are out there, Hegseth anyone in MAGA that's there. And that's the purpose of the Hartmann Program. And that's the purpose of us. That's what do you think I'm doing on here? If you don't like what we're doing, get the hell off this show. But if you do, sit back and help.
Yeah.
Do something so you have an answer to your grandchildren. Grandpa, Grandma, way back in the early 2000 or in the 2020s, what did you do to fight this? Maybe you'll have an answer.
Well, the answer should be I went to MRFF.org and chipped in. Mikey Weinstein, the founder and president of the Military Religious Freedom Foundation, MRFF.org. Thank you so much, Mikey, for the great work you're doing. Great talking with you again.
Thank you, Tom. Appreciate everything you do. And your
Always
staff.
great having you on.
Take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.